If you've been recently laid off, if you are bracing for unemployment, if you are underemployed, here's how you're gonna budget to stay on top of things during this time. This will not be easy, and a lot of things will just simply be out of your control. But today, we're gonna focus on the 10 things that you can control to make managing finances during this time a little easier. This video idea was actually a comment in my last video, so let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing you need to do is adjust to your new reality ASAP. The next few weeks or even months are going to be very overwhelming. But as quickly as you can, it's important to adjust to your new circumstances and sit down and redo your budget. Whatever budget you have been using for the past few years is gone. Doesn't matter, throw it out. Basically, you're gonna cut everything that is non-essential. The sooner you make these adjustments to your spending, the less chance of running through your savings or even getting into debt. The next thing you're gonna do before we actually deep dive into the budget is to see if you can get any assistance during this time. Applying for unemployment benefits ASAP is always one of the first things that you have to do when you lose your job. You should determine the amount that you are entitled to and factor that into your budget when adding up your income sources. Unemployment insurance is something that is paid for by your employer in the event of a layoff or job termination that is due to no circumstances that you, the employee, could have prevented. There is a list of criteria that must be met in order for you to qualify for this, and I will go ahead and link some resources in the description box. Disability benefits is also another program to look into, as well as employment assistance, which can help you find another job. There may be other benefits that you're eligible for as well, including SNAP. Just double check to make sure that you are getting all the benefits that you are entitled to. Remember that your tax dollars actually go into a lot of these programs, so utilize them. They are here to help you when you're getting through this difficult time. Now we're going to talk about budgeting. The first thing you're going to do is obviously figure out what your income is. Although you are now without a paycheck, you still may have some money coming in. Maybe it is your spouse, maybe it is someone else in your household that is bringing in the money, or maybe you even have severance pay. Add up what you have available so you have a starting point when you start building your budget. Now let's talk about expenses. Like I said earlier, we're gonna cut basically everything that is not a necessity. What is a necessity? Making sure that you have a roof over your head, that you have electricity running through that house, that you have transportation to get to and from job interviews, that you have food, that your medical needs are taken care of, and that your minimum payments on debt are being taken care of as well. These are expenses that you cannot live without. That Japan sinking fund that you are saving for, not anymore. Now, I am obviously not one to cut everything that's holy and fun out of your budget, but this is a different story. This is not you simply trying to get out of debt and making sacrifices. This is you trying to survive, trying to find employment. So short-term sacrifices need to be made in order to make sure that you're comfortable during this time. As you're building your budget, it is also important to recognize some additional expenses that can come from being unemployed. Maybe you lose your health insurance, so you have to start paying out of pocket for that. Or maybe you decide to get a career coach or go back to school to improve your skills and your training. Add all of those things into your budget. The fourth thing you're gonna do while you're going through your budget is look for big expenses to cut. This will probably be a massive sacrifice for you to make, but this will make your life easier as you will have at least a good chunk of cash to hold you over until you find another job. This may also be an easier way to cut from your expenses instead of, cutting a bunch of tiny little things in your budget. Maybe you just go for that one massive expense, get it out of your life, and free up that cash. This could mean taking on a roommate to help offset the cost of your mortgage or your rent. It could also mean getting rid of one of your vehicles. I do have to say, Brian and I are a one vehicle household, and we live in LA, which is a very, car-centric city, and it actually isn't that bad. Making a big change like this will not only help you keep your costs down, but it may also help you catch up once you're back to work because you have this cash that you can use to rebuild your emergency fund. The next thing you're gonna do budget-wise is go through all your statements and look for any irregularities. I'm talking about that annual car inspection. Maybe there is one birthday that you simply cannot miss. Brian and I actually just got our registration renewal bill in the mail for like $800. Irregular expenses like these can really throw off your budget when you are unemployed, especially if you don't plan for them. So to make sure that you're just not caught off guard, go through your statements, see what may be coming up over the next few months that you have to pay for, like we have to pay for that car registration, and try to save up for it little by little wherever you can. This way, not only will you not be surprised by this huge irregular expense, but you're also not giving up a huge chunk of money that you hadn't already planned for. The next thing you have to do is figure out your emergency fund. If your income doesn't cover all your needs, you may have to dip into that emergency fund. I'm hoping after we went through this during COVID that you fully funded that emergency fund. I feel like something people don't talk enough about with an emergency fund is the guilt that you may feel when you have to withdraw from that. But just know that this is exactly why you save money in an emergency fund in the first place. You did the job. You did what everyone else is supposed to do. You fully funded your emergency fund, or at least you have started funding an emergency fund, and unemployment is an emergency. So please do not feel guilty touching that emergency fund. It is exactly why it is here, for this purpose. So if you have to use it, please do so. We'll figure out later on, once you get employed, once you're feeling comfortable, once all your bills are caught up and paid for, then we'll figure out how to refund that emergency fund. Now, if you don't have an emergency fund, we're gonna talk about next some side hustles, but also remember, you might wanna sell a few things as well to quickly build up some kind of emergency fund. Remember, a baby emergency fund is $1,000. So how quickly can you make $1,000 by selling something, doing a side hustle that we'll talk about next, in order to build up that mini emergency fund so you can just have it in your back pocket in case you need it. Speaking of side hustles, number 7 is to explore a side hustle. Just because your primary source of income has been cut doesn't mean that there aren't other ways to make money. Since you've nailed down your budget at this point, you know exactly how much you need to make in order to stay afloat, and that could help you decide what side hustle you need to do. Fortunately, we are in the time of a side hustle. You can do Uber, you can do Postmates. Remember, I did Postmates for a day. Check out my experience. This was actually in the beginning times of COVID, so still watch the video up in the cards. My friend who's a nurse is picking up a side gig to do IV drips for people. I've done a few side hustle videos. They're all a couple years old, but if you need some ideas, check the cards. There's 2 of them. The next thing you're gonna do is look for options to reduce interest costs. Debt is always a burden, right? But especially when you are unemployed. A few videos during our 30-day debt-free challenge, I shared how you could maybe call up your credit card company and ask for a lower interest rate. I'll link that video in the cards as well, so give that a shot. If you own a home, maybe it is time to refinance for a lower mortgage rate. Refinancing your debt to a lower interest rate can both reduce your monthly payment and lower your total repayment cost. These lower payments are just simply meant to give you some breathing room. While you are unemployed, I don't expect you to pay above your debt minimums, which is something that I always would recommend. So if you're able to lower that interest rate, maybe lower your monthly payments, definitely do so. Once you do find employment and your money is flowing and you're feeling back to normal, then we're going to increase those monthly debt payments to get you out of debt faster. But until that moment happens, pay the minimums, and if you can lower that payment, do so now. The 9th thing you're gonna do is just keep track of your spending and update your budget often. I also forgot to mention that I recently did an updated how to budget for beginners guide in the card, so please check that out. But tracking your spending is essential, especially if you are on a tighter budget. By keeping tabs on things that you're spending, you can make sure that you're sticking to your tighter budget. You may also find that as you're tracking your spending that you can see opportunities to cut your budget, your expense categories a little further, which is always really good. It's also good to keep track of your spending in case you have to make adjustments in the future. So maybe your unemployment benefits are getting smaller in the upcoming months. You'll need to adjust your budget in order to accommodate that. The important thing is to keep tabs on your money and react quickly when circumstances change. And finally, the 10th thing you have to do while budgeting, while unemployed, is to get your family on board. Living on your new unemployment means that the whole family has to make sacrifices. So work with your spouse, talk to your kids to make sure that you are all in agreement about what needs to be done and what can be cut. Now, bonus budget tip while unemployed: if you are able to, still aim to contribute what you can to your retirement. Now, technically, you do not have to do this, right? Focus on your necessities, including your debt minimums, but make sure that your necessities are taken care of first. And if maybe 1 month or every month that you find that you have a little extra money that you can contribute into your retirement, I would still recommend doing so. This will help in the long term, as you don't have to play catch up as much once you become employed again. But again, no pressure. Necessities are first, but saving up for retirement can be a nice bonus if you have the extra money. And those are 10 ways, plus one bonus way, to budget while unemployed. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I would also recommend you do our 30-day debt-free challenge. I know that it's kind of geared towards being a debt-free challenge, but there are a lot of days, I think, in that 30-day challenge that can help you figure out what to sell and side hustles that I feel like it would be worth a download. Remember, it's free and it's easy. I'm Asia Dang. If you have any questions or if you have resources that you would like to add to this conversation, please let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.